Hey guys, Austin Ramos and the Miami Dolphins are going back on the road in their Week 5 matchup against the Carolina Panthers. This time, kickoff is at 1 p.m. No more primetime games for the foreseeable future for this Miami Dolphins team. Back-to-back ones were pretty tough on the boy. Not too many good hours of sleep in those weeks, at least when it came to those game days and stuff. Aside from that, game kicks off at 1 p.m. Will be broadcasted on Fox this October 5th. That is the Sunday slate. Let's talk about some gambling lines. Dolphins are favored by 1.5 points on the spread. Over/under set at 44.5. And then money line Dolphins are favored at -120. But the Carolina Panthers are listed as even. ESPN's matchup predictor has the Dolphins not favored to win this one at 48.3%. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers are at 51.3%. Aside from that, let's talk about these teams' last four matchups since we're about a quarter way through the season. Both teams come into this one at 1-3, and things are not looking great for both of them. But at least the Dolphins may have a glimmer of hope. Whoever wins this one may have some type of hope, but I'm expecting that to be the Miami Dolphins. And we'll see why when I go through some of the injuries and so on and so forth with the keys to victory. So stay tuned for that. In the last four matchups, both teams are 1-3. Dolphins getting their first win more recently on Week 4. Meanwhile, the Panthers got their first win in Week 3 against the Atlanta Falcons. More impressive win for the Falcons, though, shutting out them 30-0. Meanwhile, Dolphins 21-27 victory against the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. But in terms of the losses, things look a little worse for the Carolina Panthers. They lost Week 1 by 26-10 against the Jaguars. Week 2, 27-22 against the Cardinals. And then lastly in Week 4, 42-13 against the Patriots. Meanwhile, Dolphins 33-8 in Week 1, 33-27 against New England, and then 31-21 against the Buffalo Bills. So a lot of similarities, a lot of differences. You be the judge. All right, let's talk about some injuries. Dolphins are on the road, so let's start with them. Darren Waller is listed here on the injury chart with listed as questionable with a hip/rest. He was a limited participant in Thursday's practice. Cedric Wilson Jr., wide receiver, is questionable with an undisclosed injury. Dolphins picked him up in light of the Tyreek Hill news, so interesting to see that. Speaking of Tyreek, he is on injury reserve with a knee injury. He has been placed on the IR by the Dolphins. He's out for the year, dislocated his knee, tore almost every ligament in his left leg, so not looking good for Tyreek or the passing game for this Miami Dolphins team moving forward, but if there's a will, there's a way, and this Miami Dolphins team hopefully will find a way. Update on Jason Sanders' injury. He's still on injury reserve. He won't come off of it. He's still dealing with the hip injury, so he won't be active for this Carolina Panthers game. Riley Patterson, in his absence, has been pretty well. Not too many issues there with him. Dolphins just need to get in more field goal situations, score more touchdowns so you can see a little more out of him. But hopefully Jason Sanders comes back fully healthy and ready to go because kind of miss that guy being out there. Moving on, we have Storm Duck questionable. He's moving off. His status is at least in a more gray area rather than listed as out with the ankle injury. Hopefully, Dolphins can bring back Storm Duck into the rotation. I'm assuming that's going to be the case with the Cam Smith getting cut this week. So, yeah, interesting news there. Ethan Bonner, cornerback, is questionable with a hamstring injury. Jason Marshall Jr., cornerback, is still on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. Austin Jackson, guard, is still on injured reserve with his toe injury. And that pretty much dates us back to a little bit past last week's matchup. Now, if we move on to the Carolina Panthers, their injury sheet is pretty long, so I'm going to try to be frank with it. But we got Jatavion Sanders, tight end, questionable with an ankle injury. Chuba Hubbard, running back, questionable with a calf injury. Both of those guys did not practice in Thursday's practice. Moving on, we have Delavion Campbell, wide receiver, is on injury reserve with a hamstring injury. LeBron Ray, defensive end, is on injury reserve with an ankle injury. Trayshawn Warden, defensive tackle, is questionable with a toe injury. David Moore, wide receiver, is on injured reserve with an elbow injury, dislocated elbow to be specific. Chow Smith Wade, cornerback, is questionable. Chandler Zavia, guard, is on injured reserve with a knee injury. TJ Linebacker is questionable. Jalen Coker, wide receiver, injured reserve with quadriceps injury. Austin Schobert, center, is on injured reserve with a knee injury. Robert Hunt, guard, is on injured reserve to repair a torn biceps. I believe he's out for the rest of the season. Could possibly miss the rest of the season. Former Dolphin there, Robert Hunt. So with all those injuries, especially to the offensive line and the passing game, and possibly their lead back out, you got to tell me this Miami Dolphins team, their front seven to be specific, is chomping at the bit to get at Bryce Young. I would agree so. And that is my first key to victory here. Miami Dolphins front seven needs to get home and get to the quarterback. Put as much pressure on Bryce Young as possible whenever he drops back. Aside from that, just stifling the running attack. But the first and foremost biggest key is to get to Bryce Young. They're possibly going to roll out Rico Dowdle in the starting running back position. So he's a formidable back, and I do expect him to be relatively serviceable for this Carolina Panthers team. But Chuba Hubbard is the guy there, and he's been pretty well. And if he's not there, then that opens up a realm of opportunities for this Miami Dolphins front seven to, just tee off on Bryce Young, honestly. Aside from that, the secondary needs to be pretty well with facing up against Santoro McMillan. So that's going to be a big-time emphasis on this secondary. But first and foremost, this game is going to be won and lost in the trenches. So big-time moment for this Miami Dolphins pass rush to kind of step up, flourish. They had a pretty decent game against Justin Fields. Now let's see if they can replicate it against the Carolina Panthers and get Bryce Young really, really uncomfortable there in the backfield. Moving on, let's talk about the Dolphins on the offensive side of the ball. They need to run the dang ball. Devon Achane nearly eclipsed 100 yards last week, and it really helped with this Miami Dolphins team dictate things on the offensive side of the ball. And hopefully they get a little bit more of that going into this one against the Carolina Panthers. Hoping for a Devon Achane 100-yard game. Aside from that, just need to keep the ball out of Tua's hands as much as possible. And this is not a slight at Tua. It's just you have to let this running game develop. You have to let this offensive line develop. They're in relatively good health despite some two key injuries early on in the season. They're in pretty good health, and they looked pretty dang good. Tua didn't get sacked last week. So got to keep that momentum moving forward and, just being efficient in the passing game. But first and foremost, the key to here on the offense side of the ball is Devon Achane's success. They need to pretty much run him as much as you can, pass him as much as they can. But overall, I would like to see him eclipse 100 yards. That's not the goal I'm saying in terms, but just the usage of him. He is the star player on this offense, especially with Tyreek Hill going down. Needs to be emphasized that he is the focal point here. So, run the entire offense to Devon Achane, which should be pretty formidable and produce great results. And with the addition of Darren Waller, hopefully he ends up suiting up for this one. It's going to open the playbook even more. I know the injury to Tyreek Hill is absolutely massive, and it feels like the world's crashing down. It's a massive setback. I think this Dolphins team will be fine without him. And unfortunately, we probably may have seen his last down as a Miami Dolphin. Will be unfortunate if that's the case, but, it's just the way this league works out. It is what it is. Now, my last key to victory is to just be an efficient football team. And that kind of is a very broad stroke, right? So, limit the amount of penalties against you. Force turnovers. Win the turnover battle. Don't have any turnovers. Force turnovers. And last but not least, put up a lot of points. As many points as you possibly can. This defense has been questionable. They haven't really been getting too many stops, and it's really unfortunate and frustrating to see. But at least on the offensive side of the ball, you can control certain things, and that is putting up points on the board. I know it's going to be hard without Tyreek, but this Dolphins offense can sustain itself and stay afloat. Now, the receiving room is a little bit questionable without Tyreek in there now. Now we have Malik Washington sliding into the wide receiver 2 spot. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine sliding into number 3. And then moving on down the list, we have D. Eskridge, Cedric Wilson Jr., Taj Washington, And that's pretty much all of the Dolphins wide receiver room. So they're definitely going to have to put an emphasis on running the ball. Devon Achane, Ollie Gordon, Jalen Wright is probably going to suit up for this one. So those are key things that this Dolphins offense needs to learn and really be on all fours with. And that is running the dang football. The run game will set up everything else for this Miami Dolphins team. And hopefully Mike McDaniel and the coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball will realize that. Aside from that, that wraps up this game preview for the Week 5 matchup against Carolina Panthers. You can continue to stay checking out the channel. We just released Week 5 NFL game picks, and then on top of that, you're going to have the post-game review coming after this one on Sunday afternoon. And then last but not least, we got the Week 4 game day vlog from the Dolphins' first win this season on Monday Night Football against the Jets coming out soon. Stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. And on top of that, go ahead and like this video if you liked it. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.